Okay, my name is Nick Taylor. I'm a professor in the English department here at San Jose State, and this is my third year, and I couldn't think of a better place to teach. I went to graduate school in Virginia and published my first novel, The Disagreement, with Simon & Schuster in 2008, and then moved out here. And I'm originally from California, so it was interesting to come back.
I started out in the art department, and what drew me to English instead of art was predominantly the faculty. I took a class with Kathleen Miller and got hooked. I'd always been artistic in many ways, and so it was a short leap from painting to writing as my predominant interest.
When I was an undergrad, my first creative writing teacher walked into the room and he said, he was this debonair southern gentleman who my wife still talks about, and he said, "If you're not here to write character-driven fiction, I can't help you." And from that moment on, I fought against all of his precepts that there's only one way to write fiction, and I strongly disagree. And the first thing I tell my students is, I am going to try to understand what it is you're attempting to do, and I'm going to do whatever I can to move you closer to that goal over the course of the next semester. And I'd like to think I'm successful. We're a young program here. We just recently introduced a creative writing undergraduate concentration. It's a specialty that you can have in the BA in English, and for about 8 years we've had an MFA in creative writing.
With the department here, you just find a collection of students that understand your work and motivate you to do better and to constantly strive for perfection. I know when I first started here in Kathleen Miller's class, it was the intro to creative writing, so we tried nonfiction and fiction and poetry, and it scared me to death to have people tell me something was wrong with my work. I was just petrified, and I would strive for perfection in everything I did because I just didn't want to be wrong, and I didn't want people to say something. And now I find myself in a workshop going, "Can you please tell me something other than, I like this is good." So I ended up being like the wicked witch of the writing workshop. After everyone says, "I really like this," I go, "Well," and it's, you learn, because when you're thrown out in the world, I'm sure, it's rejection letter for rejection letter. You develop a thicker skin. You are able to find what works for you and what is good versus, what your mom tells you is good. My mom's an accountant. She thinks everything I write is amazing.
One thing that I also try to teach my students, many of whom come to the program with a strong sense of artistic aesthetics and a drive to create something beautiful, is to give them the discipline and the tools to be able to realize their vision.
I know that, like many people, I write to solve issues. I write to solve what's going on in my head, and some of my best poetry has come out of turmoil that I've then shared with class, or not shared with class, or shared in poetry readings. I actually just had my first poetry reading where I was the feature, and I shared a highly personal poem that I'd never read to anyone else, and started crying, and then the whole audience started crying, and I was like, success! Got the whole audience completely dialed in on that, and it's a way to share myself and share other people, and by reading all the literature we read here, it's not just, the writing aspect, you gain a greater understanding of the scope of humanity.
We're born often with a good sense of what we like and what we don't, but we're not born with the ability to soldier through the highs and lows that come with any career in the arts. And it makes my heart warm to hear Danielle talk about how she's gone from being meek and bashful in workshops to being the person who just cuts right to the point. And that tells me that we've done a good job here, because I wouldn't feel comfortable casting my students out into the unforgiving world without the kind of thick skin that Danielle is talking about, and without the discipline to accomplish a large project.